things to catch everyone up on, but just wanted to start off by saying it's so great to see everybody. This call has been, I always look forward to it, to catching up with old friends and colleagues who are equally interested in commercial fishing safety. So to get started, I just wanted to say that I think we'll probably have over 41 attendees on today's presentation. I think a few folks had were accepting the invitations this morning, so probably more than 41. We have a few new folks who will be joining us today. We have some individuals from the Netherlands who are joining the call, so welcome to all of you. We have some manufacturers who are joining. Also wanted to welcome them. It's a great call, and I think there's always something that we learn, and it's a great opportunity for discussion as well. I wanted to let people or remind people that the meeting will be recorded, and that allows us to share the presentations and discussion with those who are unable to join the call. The recording will be available on the iFish website, and I think during the presentation I'll put a link in the chat for those who want to be able to figure out or find the iFish site and the recordings. There's also a link in the agenda that shows you where to find that. I also, just a little housekeeping as we get started, if everyone would please just keep yourself on mute if you're not talking or presenting, that would be very helpful. So when the presenter is speaking, that there aren't any interruptions and everyone can hear the presentation well. And then two important things to point out. We are hoping to get more suggestions for speakers for upcoming quarterly calls. So if you have somebody who you think is doing great work when it comes to life jackets or commercial fishing safety, please let us know. And probably the best thing to do is just send that information to Rebecca Weil, and then she can follow up. And then, and it's also okay to nominate yourself. You know, maybe you think you have a great story to share or important information to share. This is no time to be humble. We want to hear from everybody. So don't be afraid to nominate yourself. And then lastly, some exciting news. A few of us have been working on a podcast it's called Fishing Forward. And it addresses a number of topics related to commercial fishing, health, and safety. And that podcast will be featured on the Coastal Routes Radio website. And we'll have two podcasts ready in January. And so we'll be promoting that. And I will also provide a link to the Coastal Routes Radio website in the chat box. So, Beck, did I forget anything? Or did we?
I think you covered it all. Great.
Okay, wonderful. So I would like to now turn it over to Jennifer Lincoln, who I'm sure has some helpful, interesting updates from the NIOSH group.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name's Jennifer Lincoln. I work for NIOSH, and I've worked for them for around 30 years now. Most of my research has been to reduce occupational risk on the decks of fishing vessels. I've also been involved in coordinating and organizing the iFish conferences over the years. And although I don't do as much research as I used to, I now sit in the part of the organization that is responsible for the entire agriculture, forestry, and fishing research and outreach portfolio that NIOSH has. So I work more on policy issues across the board, really, when it comes to occupational safety and health in agriculture, forestry, and fishing. I want to thank Julie and Rebecca for continuing to coordinate these quarterly calls. It's this particular product that I will certainly highlight when I go to, when I get to the point that I can advocate for funding for the next iFish conference. So thank you for keeping the dialogue going guys. A couple of things. I did write down some announcements that I wanted to bring to the group's attention because I thought that there would be interest. One is really focusing on my U.S. colleagues here, but I just wanted to remind you that the NIOSH partnership with the Coast Guard and those grants, the funding that we have, because of that, we have another application deadline coming up on January 21st. So these grants are available for both research and for safety training, and it's for individuals in academia, members of nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and businesses involved in the fishing and maritime industries. So if you are interested in that, I can send more information about that and refer you to the NIOSH website where that announcement lives. The other thing that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is that the National Transportation Safety Board in the United States held a roundtable meeting in October, so since we last met, that was focused on improving fishing vessel safety in the United States. I'll put a link to in the chat in case anyone would like to watch the recording that's on YouTube. The roundtable included government officials, industry leaders, fishing vessel operators, safety experts, and survivors of vessel accidents to discuss what can be done to address commercial fishing safety, as well as, the real, I think, goal behind it for the NTSB was to see how their recommendations can be implemented, particularly the ones that have been on the books for a while but have not gotten any traction. And then, and so I'll put a link to that YouTube video in the chat in case folks are interested. And then finally, this is a little off topic, but I think that this is a good audience to bring this up with. There were a group of us that met a couple of weeks ago to discuss mental health issues in the fishing industry in the United States. And I'm bringing it up here to understand if it's a topic of concern in other areas of the world, which I suspect that it is. And I'm interested in learning about any tools or resources that have been developed for commercial fishing, for the fishing industry regarding mental health, PTSD, and stress among in this population. So I think that maybe either a follow-up email to me, which I'm on the invite, or just a link to things that you are aware of in the chat would be helpful. So that's that was my quick 5 minutes, Julie and Beck, and I'm happy to answer any questions folks have.
You know, I think that one of the things I forgot to mention when we started today's call is if people have questions, if you could just take yourself off mute and just throw them out there, because with so many people on the call, it's really difficult to see if somebody has their hand raised or has the hand button on. Okay, well, maybe folks will think of questions as we move forward. So thank you, Jennifer, for those updates. And I think what we'll do is we'll welcome Matt Duffy, who is our presenter today. And just wanted to give a little background on Matt. So he was born and raised in McGrath Cove, which is a small fishing village near the iconic Peggy's Cove. He is no stranger to the fishing industry in Nova Scotia, and while enjoying boating and sport fishing, he's also an active member of the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary Maritimes Region. He graduated from Nova Scotia Community College, holds a certificate in occupational health and safety, and also a 15-ton commercial vessel license. And he also has a rescue boat master's license and currently sits on the board of directors for Safety Services Nova Scotia. He's presently the executive director of Fish Safe Nova Scotia, formerly known as the Fisheries Safety Association of Nova Scotia. So Matt, welcome to the call, and thank you so much for presenting today. if you would like, you could go ahead and share your screen, and we're excited to hear what you have to talk about.
All right, excellent. I'm just going to so that I have my audio connected as well, so folks can hear some of the things. So I'll share my sound. So thanks for inviting me to present today, and Rebecca and I have chatted quite a bit about this and did a test presentation, make sure that everything on my end worked. And it's great to be able to present and share ideas in this platform. I think it's certainly worthwhile to bounce ideas off each other and learn from what folks are doing around the world. It's quite interesting. And you know, we actually reached out to Rebecca on this when we were building our mobile training unit. As many of you know, they had their PFD van project, and very helpful in terms of sharing of information, and that's what this is really about. It creates some great connections, and no sense in reinventing the wheel on a lot of things if you don't have to. So everyone, all right. So there we go. So our mobile training unit, the need for it was established in 2019. We were going through some operational changes and looking at new ways that we could innovate and streamline some of our services. When we looked at that, you know, there's a lot of ideas bouncing around, and we ultimately decided on, instead of using staff vehicles and reimbursing for travel and things like that, where we didn't have a dedicated resource, we would look into building a mobile training unit. So it's a dedicated method to transport all of our tools and resources that we take to the wharves with us, along with safety equipment, PFDs, and personal locator beacons and all that fun stuff. But we also many times will have a life raft with us, and that doesn't always fit in the back of a car or an SUV. So it was good to have a resource that we could take with us for the training. The nice thing on the promotional side is the mobile training unit also acts as a moving billboard. So it gives that visual representation to the harvesters that we work with, that we are there on the wharves. So they see that and recognize that we are there, which is key for us to ensure that our membership knows that we are working for them as hard as that we can. So we originally planned for a van. The van actually in the pictures here is one that we were going to move forward with. And then COVID-19 challenges certainly extended the project timeline with the chip shortages and things like that. It was a bit of a saving grace. The van that we were going to buy in the photo there ended up having a mechanical issue, and they needed to do a lot of repairs to it before they could sell it. So we dodged a lemon, so to speak. But what we ultimately went with was a Ford F-150 with a space cap on the back. And the space cap can be transferred from vehicle to vehicle, so cost efficiency was certainly something we looked at. And what's nice about this is as soon as that F-150 reaches the end of its service life, we can take that space cap and place it on the back of another vehicle. It also provides safe transportation for our entire team, but also allows us to organize and transport all of our equipment properly. So it gives us a lot of floor space. So we set some goals in year one, and we've been doing this for several years with other organizations. So it wasn't so much thinking of new ways on what to do when we get to the wharf, but it was more about transporting ourselves there. So in year one, we set a goal to visit 60 wharves, which is, within our wheelhouse, so to speak. And we had a reprint of our wheelhouse safety logbook, which is, for all intents and purposes, a health and safety manual for a fishing boat. So we had all those new ones printed off with COVID information and things like that. And then we were also looking at engaging new industry members as there's new entrants, new captains, and also looking at ways that we can build upon existing relationships. So here's just a couple of photos of inside the mobile training unit. So as you can see, there's shelves. In the first photo, we have on the bottom first aid kits that we give out, but on the top, those are emergency throw bags. There's 90 feet of buoyant line. It's actually a Transport Canada requirement for commercial vessels of a certain size traveling a certain distance to carry these. And most fishing vessels in Nova Scotia are required to carry one. So they're fairly inexpensive, especially when purchased in bulk. And it's one of the things that we like to give out to fishermen and captains particularly. They can use it as rope for their life frame, but also as a throw bag. And everyone that's tested one with us has been quite impressed with it. You can underhand throw it or toss it like a football, and you can get a considerable distance to a person in the water if needed. And just a couple other shots. So the other side of our mobile training unit houses our immersion suits and some PFD bags for all of our training side of it. Inside, and you'll have to forgive the old photo, when we first got it, we just put all of our resources in it just to hit the road as quick as possible. We've since transferred everything over into nice, organized, waterproof bins, not in cardboard boxes. But this was right when we got it in and got everything loaded inside. You'll see we take around a Dacon rescue frame and a Dacon rescue dummy, which we utilize in our man overboard drills around the province. So in year one, we set a goal for 60 wharves. We were actually able to visit 71, and that's throughout lobster fishing areas 33, 34, and 35. And for reference, that's just about the entire southerly end of Nova Scotia, from Halifax to Digby, or from Halifax to Yarmouth to Digby, and then back up through the Annapolis Valley, working our way towards the Advocate Harbors area. So in total, that translated to about just under 10,000 kilometers driven. And through that, with PFDs that we purchased, we gave away 30 for free, and we distributed 1,750 wheelhouse safety logbooks. 52 of the 71 safety dock talks, as we call them, included occupational health and safety officers from our Department of Labor, and they're there in a educational capacity and to build their relationship with industry, but also to educate on the regulations that our province has. It's a requirement, a law in Nova Scotia to wear a PFD in the workplace wherever the risk of drowning exists. So there's a lot of education on that front, but we also talk about lifting devices and, getting into the nitty gritty, fire extinguishers, all kinds of fun stuff. And we worked it out on the plus side of this. We saved about $5,500 in travel costs by incorporating ourselves into a mobile training unit. So not only does it, provide an efficient and professional means of transportation for our services and activities, but it has a considerable cost savings as well. So from a nonprofit standpoint, that's quite attractive. And this photo here is taken just outside of the Yarmouth area on a quite rainy day, but it served quite nicely because it kept everything nice and dry inside. We found often if the vessel wasn't available that we could go aboard and sit down inside with a captain, especially with COVID. The mobile training unit would act as a way that we could keep all of the documentation and supplies safe and dry, but also give it to them and to educate them on it without having to sit in the back seat of a vehicle. The other portion of our statistics within year one of using the mobile training unit was we directly interacted with 102 captains and 24 crew members that came along with some of those captains. We didn't do as many man overboard safety drills as we wanted to. We did 5 this fall. I believe last year we did 10 or 12. And because of COVID-19, we were only able to purchase 42 PFDs. Because of the supply chain shortages. So we actually sourced the PFDs from 5 different Canadian provinces and had them shipping, but we were still able to give away 30, and so far we've done 5 purchased through our cost share program. And we're sending out a membership newsletter probably within the next month, and that's going to speak to our cost share program, which I'll get into shortly. And the photo here, that's in Sambro, Nova Scotia, and that's utilizing our Dacon rescue frame. One of our team members, Jess, is the person overboard, and we're just demonstrating to the captain and crew there how to use it and what to do. And it was quite timely. The captain actually talked to me before this safety demo, and he said last fishing season he had lost a crew member overboard, and they had an incredibly difficult time getting them back aboard. Luckily they did, but he said as soon as they got him on deck, they all broke down and just cried. They thought for sure that they were going to lose him, and it really impacted them. So he was more than willing and happy to participate in this safety drill. He had a new crew member. He wanted to make sure that they were knowledgeable on what to do. So it really worked out well. And these are just a few other shots of some of our activities wharfside this fall. Going around in a shift where we don't really have to bug people too much to get them to the wharves. They come willingly, and I think one of the photos there in the center demonstrates, you know, we can draw a crowd to the wharf fairly easily, and people are invested in very much interested into this. So into our personal flotation device awareness and giveaway projects, we did quite a bit this fall. I'm just going to shut my video off. Keeps telling my internet's unstable. So we were in a unique position where we could allocate funds like we never have before, and as a nonprofit, those opportunities don't come along that often. But we set aside around $7,500 for safety equipment giveaways, which included $5,000 for personal flotation devices. We wanted to go with, you know, for the purposes of it, to go with one PFD, which is why we selected the Fitzwright Star Mesh 1510, which is a solid PFD, and it is Transport Canada approved for commercial use here. I think folks in the US might recognize this, branded as a Kent type of PFD in the United States. What's attractive about this PFD is it is cost effective. You're able to purchase this for under $100, taxes in Canada, and it's durable and comfortable. And we've received a lot of really good feedback from industry. We started wearing these PFDs, especially in the winter months when we're on wharves, and we started getting more and more questions to the point where we were walking off the wharf and taking the PFD off so captains and crews could try it on. So we started bringing more of them with us, and it got to the point where the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture and Department of Labor made this PFD a standard for all of their staff members, where they also interact with fish harvesters and are near the water all the time. So, you know, this project really just started rolling out in the last month and a half, and we're already seeing really good results. I'm sure as soon as that newsletter hits everyone's mailboxes, we're going to be inundated with phone calls, emails, and texts looking for PFDs and things like that. And I'll just jump to the next one. So part of what we're doing here is a safety equipment and training subsidy program, and I've listed off in the slide everything that we'll be participating in with our members. So one of them is the PFD for the ones, once we reach our limit of how many we can give away for free, we found that there's a lot of benefit in doing cost share. It ensures that the end user still takes ownership of what they are buying, and you know, now they have a vested stake in it. But also we recognize we can't give everything away for free. So a 50% cost share still appears quite attractive to industry. And we're doing the same thing for personal locator beacons. We're doing a $150 rebate on life raft inspections. And then we're offering 50% training coverage on forklift operator, mental health and wellness, safe lifting, slips, trips, and falls training, and JOSH committee training, things like that. These are above and beyond. We do discounts, heavy discounts on marine basic and marine advanced first aid, which the industry takes us up on quite a bit. So we're hoping that we get the same level of participation with these other courses, because this is where we're seeing a lot of our injury sources, especially with lifting and slips, trips, and falls. They're in wet, damp, at times icy environments. And back injuries are probably one of the leading sources of injuries in the fishing industry, where they're lifting, heavy gear, lobster traps, and things like that all the time. So switching to our awareness campaign, and going back several years, the partners that were at the table at the time really looked at this and said, we need to do something. This is going back, 2012, 2013. And they got pretty much all branches of government, federally and provincially, along with industry stakeholders, associations such as ourselves, the Nova Scotia Fishery Sector Council, and other groups. And they created then the Safe at Sea Alliance. And then it quickly switched to Fishing Safety Now, which was a 5-year strategy with industry and government at the table. So part of that was awareness of getting folks to wear their PFD, and we're continuing to do that today. And one of the things here in the photo, it's a coffee cup cozy that our Workers' Compensation Board actually made up for events and things like that. So it looks like your coffee's wearing a PFD, but it asks the question, who do you wear your PFD for? And that's the angle that we go at most of the time, is asking the why. So a lot of folks will wear their PFD because they have kids at home, or they have a significant other at home, or their parents, or whoever, or, maybe they just have, themselves as the reason, and that's perfectly fine. So we ask people that, and it really puts things in perspective for them, because not all the time they might not always wear it for themselves. So if they, open their eyes and say, there's people at home that are depending on me to come back home at the end of the day, it shifts their perspective. Some of the other things that we've partnered on this year with our Workers' Compensation Board and the Nova Scotia Fishery Sector Council. The first image here is a clip from a letter that was actually sent out to our entire industry before our 2 largest lobster industries opened up just a week and a half ago. And essentially the letter is, reminding them to wear their PFD, do their pre-departure checklist, make sure their safety equipment's ready to go, things like that. So it's nice we have, our partners in government and industry working together to say that same message. And then the second photo here, the wear it for the ones who wouldn't know what to do without you. That's a PFD poster. We just staple them all over wharves. And I think fishermen have been quite familiar with these for several years. We've updated it. This year, our logo has changed, and we changed a little bit of the wording. And we went with a non-specific type of inflatable PFD, one that we figure industry would recognize. But we use those posters all over the place. So we incorporate these subtle reminders at every wharf wherever we can do so. Along with that, we marketed it on social media with our Workers' Compensation Board, which on social media they're known as Work Safe for Life. And then we also did radio campaigns. So these are the 3 different types of PFD awareness posts that were sponsored on social media, Instagram and Facebook. There was also ads on YouTube and things like that. And I'm just going to clip through these radio ads so you can hear them, and it really demonstrates who they're marketing to, and they wanted to keep it diverse, so it would try to incorporate as many people as possible. And Rebecca, if you want to just give a thumbs up maybe to make sure that the sound comes through, if you can.
For the kids who love them. For their spouses, mothers, fathers, nieces and nephews. For their teammates and the teams they coach. For the best friends who count on them for good advice and a great joke. When you make PFDs mandatory for your crew, you're also looking out for all the people in their lives who wouldn't know what to do without them. A message from WorkSafeForLife.ca. Your sister would be lost without your advice and the way you can always make her laugh. Your granddad Your
Who loves nothing more than
to beat you at crib. The kids you coach who believe they're unbeatable because of you. If you won't wear a personal flotation device for yourself, wear it for the ones who wouldn't know what to do without you. A message from WorkSafeForLife.ca. Your mom, whose favorite day of the week is when you come by for Sunday dinner. Your nephew, who lives for the time he spends with you. The older couple down the road who count on you for a helping hand. If you won't wear a personal flotation device for yourself, wear it for the ones who wouldn't know what to do without you. A message from WorkSafeForLife.ca.
So that is 3 out of 4 radio ads that our Workers' Compensation Board put on the radio. And we're in a unique position with southerly Nova Scotia where we were targeting for this, that one company owns all the radio stations throughout that area. So it was very easy to ensure that these ads were heard on all those stations. And at the same time, we also ran 2 ads. One of them was around navigational safety, but the other one was around PFDs and ensuring that you were prepared for the season. So whether it was social media, on the wharf, over the radio, things like that, if they were watching YouTube, we were making sure that the message was really getting out there in a big way. I believe the next one's a video.
Your sister, who'd be lost without your advice and the way you can always make her laugh. Your granddad, who loves nothing more than to...
For some reason, that's probably going to play them all.
Your mom.
There we go. Right. And then we also have some videos that speak to safety equipment and PFDs specifically. This was a joint project between ourselves and the Nova Scotia Fisheries Sector Council that we did in 2019. And we've been using these videos as awareness pieces since. We use industry members and people are familiar with them, and it just makes it more impactful when they see folks that they can relate to very easily with that. And I'll quickly play in this one the radio ad that we played.
This lobster season, you and your crew should be prepared. To keep all crew safe, make sure everyone wears a PFD at all times. Try on your immersion suits and wax the zippers. Check the vessel's safety equipment. See that it's in working order and inspect it. Familiarize all crew on how to use safety equipment and where it is located. Document your onboard training in your Wheelhouse Safety Logbook. To get your updated copy of the Safety Logbook, call or text 902-471-3534. Have a very safe season from Fish Safe NS.
So, in total, there was 5 or 6 radio ads playing with safety messages, reminding them. And then these 2 videos here were the sponsored ads that folks would see on YouTube and on Facebook videos and things like that. So the next one is the Dave Terrio video, where it speaks specifically, to the use of PFDs and why he feels that it's most important and that it allows them to come home to the family, his family, at the end of each day. I do apologize. I think Zoom hasn't perfected it completely yet. The audio might lag a little bit. So that the audio might seem a little off from what Dave is saying. So I'll just go ahead and go with that one.
Named Dave Terrio, fish out of 3 Fathom Harbor, Causeway Road, Fisherman's Reserve. I've been fishing for 40 years. My father was fishing, and I took the license over from him. When I first started fishing, there was no such thing as thinking about safety. You jumped on the boat, it didn't matter what you had on. Me, myself, and my son and my other helper all wear PFDs at the wharf, on the water, hauling gear. We all wear them. They don't set gear without having them on. We come to the wharf, they got them on. setting day is probably one of your worst because you're loaded with traps. So the first thing we do before we leave the wharf is we make sure that everybody has their life vest on. When we're out there, one guy always keeps an eye on the other guy. We go over procedures, we do fire drills, we do incident reports, we keep up on all of that maintenance and everything. When we start, I set them down at the table and we go through everything so they know where the bandages are, they know where the flares are, they know where everything is, so there's no second guess. They know where the MMSI number is, they know everything that there is possibly to know. I've got a ladder for boarding, and we did a man overboard drill, and that was one of the things that had to be done. So I made up a net that goes down in a frame that you can haul somebody up with my pull master. There's a lot of people that ask me about building them one, and then they went on and built their own. There's nothing wrong with whoever builds whatever they want, as long as it's safe. They gotta be able to get somebody into it and lift them up without hurting them. There's no money in life. You can't put a dollar amount on your life. If you don't have a life, what's the good of money? So if it costs us $1,000, it's worth it. It don't matter. You got to spend it to make it. So if you're not looking at safety, don't get into it, because something is going to go wrong. If you're hot-headed and you think nothing's going to ever happen to you, you're absolutely wrong. It will. I hope that everybody wears their PFDs and comes home to their family. That's the most important thing there is.
So that's one of the videos that we have, and Dave obviously was great for that video, and he's taken a lot of initiative in ensuring that his vessel's safe and incorporating different pieces of equipment. But you know, it ranges from the most basic of things like band-aids, as he mentioned, right up to recovery devices and personal flotation devices. So it all makes a huge difference, and we are seeing a drastic shift in the use of personal flotation devices in Nova Scotia. Now, we do have our Department of Labor who goes in an enforcement capacity, and they will issue what's called administrative penalties, and there is a dollar figure attached to those penalties, you know, so there's and those can be issued to the vessel owner, the captain, the crew, you know, all levels on board the boat or in the operation. So it is an incentive, I guess, for people to wear them because they don't get charged then. But the bigger incentive that we try to push is so everyone comes home safely at the end of each day. So that's really it from my end, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if there is any.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Matt. So I think we'll I'm not sure what's wrong with my sound. I'm going to put myself on mute. Just ask questions.
Yeah, so we maybe it might be your phone. Can you try to do it? Great, let's try that. Yeah, there we go. So thank you, Matt. That was a great thing to see your van in action and hear more about it. And thank you. We have a little under 20 minutes to just discuss, like we always do. And for anyone new, this just means it's an open time to sort of talk about things you might take away from that, questions you might have, ask Matt, you know, anything, you know. I think for me, the thing I would wonder about, Matt, is what you most recommend to other people from this, or were there any surprises that you had that were really great, or obstacles? But let's open the floor and see who would like to ask some questions or just discuss this further.
Well, I just wanted to say what a great presentation that was. Thank you, Matt, so much. I want to look that over thoroughly again, and I really felt I learned from it, so thank you so much.
Can you ask for a link to the video?
Yeah. Is there a link to the video, Matt?
Yeah, I'll send an updated copy to Rebecca, and we can get that shared out to everyone. I think she has the old version of the PowerPoint, but the updated version, I'll definitely make sure that you can send it.
And just a reminder, we'll be posting the recording for the whole session, so including all of Matt's comments. That'll be up on the iFish website pretty soon.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And the link for the iFish website is in the chat box for anyone who wants it. I think, Lily, you had a question?
Yes. I am new to this group, so hello all. I'm currently the product to market coordinator for Mustang Survival, which is a new position for me because previous to that, my life was co-owning MTI life jackets with my husband, who's also on this call. And I did more of the marketing side of the business. And our most popular campaign was started as a t-shirt, it became a bumper sticker, it became a beer koozie, and it was a slogan, PFD means prevent freaking drowning. And paddlers, so we make life jackets for paddlers primarily, loved that. And I think the psychology, and I was a little scared bringing it out because it's kind of direct. It's like what your message is a lot more friendly. Like, what do you imagine if you're not around for your family, for your mom? But, it's like the direct message about, hey, this PFD means about saving your life. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the reality. It's your life. And that direct prevent freaking drowning. So I used that capital F with an asterisk. And like I said, people loved it, but like YMCA camp directors like, oh, I can't wear this in front of the kids. So we softened it to freaking. That seemed to be okay instead of the F asterisk CKING. But I just think it's the same kind of direct. I think it's hard hitting. It's more like the consequences of not wearing this is drowning, and that's scary. But that seems to be really motivating, and so it's just a comment. I love the campaign, and I'm wondering if you're thinking about the same thing, that the soft message does one thing, but this more direct, hey, if you're not around, that really means something. It's a stronger message, but it's, I think, effective.
For sure. I think we're moving in that direction. The soft message has been around for a long time within our realm, and I've seen other campaigns, through this group where the hard-hitting, impactful stuff works, and it's all about being creative. One example I use is here in Nova Scotia, there's the Nova Scotia Trucking Safety Association. There was a number of incidents where dump trucks were leaving the job site with the back of the truck still flipped up, and they were catching power lines, and it had caused some fatalities and severe injuries. So they created this ad campaign where it was, before you go, after you dump, put the lid down. And, it's kind of a play on words, humorous, but quite effective. And they actually saw a good reduction in incidents like that. So being creative in that department certainly helps.
Great. Derek, I think you're up next.
Hi, Matt. Just a question for you. In your campaign, you've really went down the road of family and connecting with families to try and make fishermen wear the PFD. And Nova Scotia's got lots of fantastic fishing communities. I wonder if you've got any feedback out of the communities to that, going down that line of getting to the families rather than getting direct to the fishermen.
Yeah, we have in the past. I guess not so much in the present. We hear feedback from folks, whether it's sons and daughters or significant others of the ones that are out fishing. We did a joint video several years ago with a few different organizations. One of the more notable incidents here in Nova Scotia was the sinking and loss of crew of the Miss Alley. And the entire crew was lost in an instant, and they were all quite young, and that was really impactful for a lot of people. So there was a video we have on our YouTube page called The Survivors, and it mainly highlights the mothers, and there's, I believe, one of the daughters sitting around a table and discussing it, and then it changes to colleagues and crew members and friends of the lost fishermen. They're sitting on the deck of the boat chatting about it. And it is a tearjerker of a video, and it does get impactful that way because it shows the impacts of what happens when things don't go the way you hope to. We have fishermen, and actually our workers' compensation board did an ad last year where there was a gentleman in the Digby area, and he actually had little patches made, and he sewn them onto the straps of his PFD, and it was the name of his 3 daughters. And he sewed it right to his PFD because that's who he wore his PFD for. So every time he put it on, he would see his daughter's name, and that would be his constant reminder. And some people have pictures of their kids or their family up on the wheelhouse and things like that, and as reminders, that's who I'm coming home for. So I think we're still at the tip of the iceberg in terms of where we've hit with the family side of it, and I think there's certainly a lot of paths you can go down, to leverage that, to market it to people on why it's important.
That's great. Thanks. Great question, Derek. Luis, I think you wanted to ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Julie. And a great presentation, Matt. My name is Luis. I am with the Fishing Partnership. We do safety training throughout the East Coast of the United States. And we're trying to get down to the South at some point soon. I was interested in seeing that you used the Jacob's cradle, I believe, or Jason's cradle, as opposed to a Jacob's ladder in your training. And I would like to learn a little bit more about that. Also, a couple of meetings ago in this panel, we learned about how inflatable PFDs had gotten a bad rep, mainly because of misinformation and lack of maintenance, perhaps education with regards to the maintenance of inflatables. Did that play a factor in you guys deciding to go with this inherently buoyant PFD when you chose that? And have you heard of that being something that's spreading as far as the bad rep to inflatables goes, as you have made this many visits on all these ports? And lastly, the cozy for the coffee cup. Is that a cardboard one like you get at a gas station, for example, or is it one that the person would keep? That was it.
All right, so I'll start off with the Dacon rescue frame. I'll put a link in the chat to everyone, and it's a similar model there. So there's the link in the chat for the rescue frame. They come in several different lengths and sizes, and they're used offshore, inshore, and Coast Guard uses them quite frequently. But they've actually developed a fisherman rescue frame that a company here locally has started to carry and distribute. And they donated the one we have to us to use in our training. And we've started to see them popping up on fishing vessels. So it's kind of a modern day Jacob's cradle. It's a lot less bulky, I suppose. And it's meant to have a long lasting life without hopefully getting any use. You want to hope it never has to be used. I know it has like carbon fiber, and there's no stitching to fray and things like that. So it's quite an interesting device. I believe it's built in Norway. When it comes to the PFDs and the reason why we chose the Fitzwright solid PFD, there was a number of factors that went into that. And the first was around cost, because the cost is a bit significant from inflatable and solid. The one behind me here hung up. We bought 2 of those this fall for staff, and I think it was about $560 for the 2 of them, whereas I could have bought 5 of the solid PFDs for pretty much the same cost. We find that there's a bit of, I guess, a trend from wharf to wharf. So there's one wharf that A lot of people really like the inflatables. There's another wharf that people really like the solids. But what is appealing to the solid PFDs is the lower maintenance requirements. And the cost of the hydrostatic release and the rearming kit is, when captains look at that, they say, okay, I have 5 of these PFDs, they need a rearm kit. They retail for, close to $100 here. So there is a cost factor involved in that too. The other factor that we considered is we are a nonprofit, so we went with the best price that we could. We gathered pricing on several different PFDs and broke it all down to where we could make the biggest impact. And with the PFD we went with, we're able to purchase more and distribute them either free or cost shared. So it was around that as well. And I think, was there a third part to your question?
Yes, the cozy.
Right.
There was a disposable cozy that would make it, I guess, very easy to produce and economic.
Yeah, it's we had the Workers' Compensation Board printed them, and a local printing company printed them. They're on a kind of like a recycled cardboard type of material, but it's quite durable because it has like a laminated finish. So if a person did want to keep it and reuse it over and over again, they certainly could. I'm sure it would eventually deteriorate, but they're quite sturdy and well built. It's kind of a fun thing, when you're at trade shows or things like that. We had one of our first aid partners at a wharfside drill that we did, and they brought coffee, so we brought the coffee cozy, so everyone had their coffees were safe at the wharf.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Did anyone else have questions?
Please, if I could.
Yeah.
A little similar to what Louise just said, Matthew. Great presentation, by the way, really interesting. When you are taking your MTUs to wharfs and you're talking to fishermen, do you see that the fishermen that have inflatable life jackets, how would you rate the level of knowledge that they have with those jackets? As in, do they understand how critical it is to pack them correctly, how critical it is to maintain them? What is the general state of the packing of those jackets? I've just done a big piece of testing on how life jackets inflate if they're badly packed, etc., etc. So I'm just quite interested in that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. I think in a lot of cases, when it comes to the inflatables, and what's nice is a lot of the marine dealers are quite helpful in terms of assisting their customers with that. So if they are buying rearm kits, a lot of them will help them change them out right there in the showroom. But I think because of the efforts